Welcome to Casa de Rodriguez. My name is David Rodriguez, hat extraordinaire. I am the owner of this shop. These are my hats. My particular store is a hat boutique, but not am I only a hat store, I am also an atelier. An atelier is where you actually have the design studio on the same premises of your boutique. We started in Southern California. I was living in Los Angeles. I had met my wife, hired her as my design assistant, and we started another company, and it was a very sporty surf type activewear for young men. From all the production that was being cut from these garments, we took the remnants and I fit pattern pieces into them and created these pull-on knit sort of Dr. Seuss type hats. So we did this event in Orange County, and it was, you know, a private underground rave, and kids would get crazy, and there was lots of ecstasy sales and acid sales and hat sales. So I set up a little booth. I cut out these 2 pieces of plywood, made a big peace sign, set my hats up there, and like within 20-30 minutes they were all gone. After this party I said, where do these kids shop? And of course, Pacific Sunwear. So I went to the district manager of Pacific Sunwear in Southern California, and the next thing you know, we were making 500-600 hats every 2 months. And at that point I knew that we were in this business to stay, and that was making hats. We packed up a 25-foot truck and we traveled across America. We ended up finding a brownstone in Spanish Harlem. We lived there for a couple years and we got pregnant. So we had to find a neighborhood that was going to really cater to our needs and where we were going to feel comfortable with our kids running around the streets of New York City, and we found the Lower East Side. We moved into the Lower East Side 7 years ago. There's boutiques all over this entire city, on this island, and we chose the Lower East Side because it was going through a renaissance. It was going through a rebirth of designers moving in and opening up their own little shops and creating their own little trend, and we felt that our style worked best on the Lower East Side because we had a downtown, cool, eclectic, funky edge to our product. So back here is the design studio, and this is where the product really comes to life. Here I have all my threads and ribbons above my sewing machines. I have everything organized in boxes from feathers and vintage ribbons and metal buckles. I also organize all the fabrics. Everything is always color-coded, so I put it all together by color story and color theme. So as you can see, there's lots of brights there. Here's a lot of the black and white story again in the navy. So everything gets organized that way. Pull the fabrics, and then I prepare on the pressing station. As we continue to go back, to the right of me are all the hat patterns. So there's probably about 600 different hat patterns, and just depending on how I design the hat, I can juxtapose one brim to another crown and create a whole new hat. The particular hat that I'm working on right now is called the Mexico Cowboy, and you know, all the patterns are hooked up on a pattern hook so it stays organized, and basically keep it in alphabetical order. And then to the left of that is all the trims that usually go on the hats, and of course, we utilize these to design from, so constantly pulling to create and, you know, get an idea of what it's going to look. We've got anything from a snakeskin to an embossed laser cut cowhide to rabbit fur. So it just depends on where we're going with that style and how cool and funky we want to make it, or classic as well. Up here is my inspiration board, so I throw a lot of inspiration up here, just little ideas, whether it's a men's vintage tie or a buckle or a chopstick that went into a lady's hair from Japan, or a piece of ribbon that I found in China on a hat box. Back here we've got a kick press, and this is basically used and utilized to attach hardware from snaps, rivets, grommets, etc. So I could either cover a button and, you know, just basically do anything with these 3 machines. It's 2 kick presses and 1 hand press. And back here on the pattern table, as I was saying earlier, we're making the Mexico Cowboy. So earlier today, I cut out this hat, and I'm getting ready to manufacture this one behind those sewing machines so that this woman can come and pick it up tomorrow. I think her name is Michelle. So here we are at Local 269, the local hangout joint on Houston Street in Suffolk. This is just around the corner from my shop. And the Local 269, it used to be called Bass May about a year ago. And prior to that, it was called the Meow Mix. It was a huge, huge spot for lesbians. When they lost their lease, it went back to Bass May. And Bass May was more like a local hangout. And a lot of the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans used to hang out here. It was like their local bar. And today, Sasha owns the bar, and her husband Bill, and they've called it Local 269. The fun, interesting thing about Local 269 as well is they've got an artist that comes in once or twice a week, and what he does is he sits on the top platform and he actually sketches the band that's performing for the night. And then the artwork gets placed up in the bar, and again, it's just an incredible accumulation and a mix of so much different art forms where you got art, music, and just, you know, an incredible group of people from the different people and different lifestyles coming together here at Local 269. You know, at the end of the day, with customers that come in here, what really excites them the most is the fact that when they realize that I make the hats here. But part of the fun and excitement with buying one of these hats, many times the customers want to come in and actually see me making it. A lot of the time, they don't even realize I make them. Now I'm putting that finishing touch on the inside of the hat so that you don't see all those raw edges. And then I'm going to take this and put the mallet to it. Smashes it up. So now I'm pounding out all my seams. Here's I'm going to give one more finish touch on the inside to really adhere the sweatband down. Oh God, look at this. This is probably older than you and I put together. When I first moved to New York City, I started working with Donna Karen and designing hats with Miss Shelley Bromfield. It was really fun. And she was actually the one who sort of propelled us to move to New York City, because she called me up in LA one day and she said, "Rodriguez, how am I going to work with you in Los Angeles? We're having lunch and you're just waking up." Because we were FedExing hats to her for runway and special accounts in Japan. And when we moved to New York City, finally got here, at that point we were also making gloves for Donna Karen, samples that is. And I thought, where were gloves being made in the United States back in the day? Because, you know, Jackie O in the 60s, every woman had a pair of gloves, short, long, longer. And I found Gloversville, New York. Literally, that's where the gloves were manufactured. So at that time, we had brought our Volkswagen van, 1976, from California to New York City, and we drove upstate to Gloversville and Johnstown, and it was really an amazing town. It was a big manufacturing town where they did all kinds of hats and handbags and gloves. And just when we got up there in the mid-90s, all these factories were closing. There was probably maybe 3 factories left, and there was one little guy Italian man named Bert Saluzzo, and he was literally making gloves still. And he had a crew of 3 guys. They were all old Italians, and he introduced me to all these different factories that were basically going out of business. So we went to visit the factories, and next thing you know, they were selling us their equipment, and this is where the mallet came from. One of those old handbag factories. It's kind of cool. It's small. So voila. And the last step, we could probably do the last step. I think we should, because then it just puts that finishing touch. Oh shit. Yeah, I think my wife's going to be very excited to get this hat today. Thanks to Uber, I got it done. Okay. Ready to go back to the machine. Let's show them what we got.
It's a big sale for them now.
We've got a lot going on here at Casa de Rodriguez because there's definitely so much to choose from, but at the end of the day, the top hot hats that are going out the door these days are the fedoras. The fedoras are really what's going on here. I've got 4 different styles of probably 12 different fedoras that we have in the store, but these 4 are pretty much the most popular. We've got your traditional wide brim fedora, and this is really nice and fun and classic because of the fabrication. You can wear it with white and cream, or basically anything, because white and cream, monk's cloth, this here is called a monk's cloth. White and cream, it kind of goes back to, and works well with anything in your wardrobe. This is a little like 1960s Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. Rat Pack look. And this guy is, your traditional 60s fedora. They wore them relentlessly, the Rat Pack back in the day. And this was also something that was worn by JFK. And when he took office in the 60s and was sworn into office as the President of the United States, he actually took his fedora off, and it ruined the hat business for about 2 decades, until baseball caps started getting hot. This particular hat is called the pork pie, and this was just another shape of a fedora that was probably more, again, in the 40s to 50s, 60s, but it had a sportier flair to it. And it was something that you could wear with your shorts or your beach swimsuit, go to the beach in, and it was really fun. They did them in straws, and it pretty much originated in Italy. So they did a lot of these straw pork pies in Italy. And then this one here, particular hat, is called I call it the sport fedora, and this is something that I created myself here out of the shop. And this one has a nice sporty flair to it. It's very streamlined, as you can see on an edge, on an angle there. And also, if the back gets brought down, it gives another little flair, and it kind of gives it a feminine edge to it when it's down, so women can get into it as well. It's cool for guys as well. It gives a little bucket feel. You flip it up and give it a little twist. And then the pork pie. Let me show you what this guy looks like. So it gets a little cutie. And some guys like to flip it up this way, but that gets a little goofy for an old man like myself. And then this one here. This is just like the sharp fedora. You want to sport this with your suit, Sunday church. It's really great. So the fedora has been really hot in the shop. The other hats that have been really great are these sport caps. Kangol has built such a name for itself that sometimes people come in here and say, oh, that's the Kangol style, that's the Kangol style. No, it's the Rodriguez style. It's a whole different hat. Similar shape to a Kangol, but it definitely translates a lot different. But these are such an easy cap to wear. This will definitely change your whole look if you take that baseball hat that you wear every day with your girlfriend or your wife and put one of these caps on. She'll love you a lot more. And of course, we do them for ladies and men. This is a cute little patchwork hat for ladies. And then what else is really hot in the shop right now are these, let's put my hand on, are these hair accessories. My wife creates all these, and this particular hat, hair accessory has a duckbill clip on the back. So not only can you put it in your hair, but you could also sport it on your hat. You can also sport it on a garment, on the lapel of a jacket. And this particular one has French lace with some ostrich, some duck, and some marabou feathers. So that's what's out here at Casa de Rodriguez. Fedoras, sports cap, and hair accessories. Next week, we're gonna hit the streets and I'm gonna show you what else is hot at the next boutique. Now, hats what I'm talking about.